From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN Noon News.
And good afternoon. Thanks for joining us on your MTN statewide news on this Monday. I'm Andrea Lutz. Many Americans are off work and off of school today as the nation celebrates the life of Martin Luther King Jr. MLK Day became a national celebration in 1986. It was signed into law by President Ronald Reagan, and all across our nation we remember the icon best known for his role in the advancement of civil rights. Although the annual MSU Billings Martin Luther King celebration and bell ringing was virtual this year, a small group of Billings residents still showed up to make sure that the bell was heard today. So one of the bell ringers was a lifelong Billings resident, Ray Walker, who's attended the celebration since the beginning. He says even though people couldn't attend because of COVID, the bell still rings. And there they are, ringing that bell today at the campus of MSU Billings. Well, other speakers in attendance at the virtual event for this event at MSU Billings were Billings Mayor Bill Cole and Senator Steve Daines and Senator John Tester. This ceremony highlighted the history of Martin Luther King and his efforts towards equality among all people. The Billings Racial Equality Group held its own virtual celebration, speakers offering their take on what King would say if he were alive today, focusing their message on justice and the right to vote. The speakers called for unity among Americans during this divided time in the country.
We must learn from the lessons of the past. There can be no true unity unless we have truth, unless we have justice. So at this moment, when our nation clearly needs to heal, we all have to play our part in that. And Not in Our Town is committed to creating courageous conversations so that we may seek to bridge these gaps. But these conversations must be based on truth, based on reality, and they must demand justice.
MLK Day is the only federal holiday designated as a national day of service. And for the last 25 years, AmeriCorps has been leading the effort to encourage Americans to volunteer on this day. They say these are the very ideals that Dr. King stood for, and as he tried to better his community as an activist and civil rights leader. All right, well, the FBI says it's vetting all 25,000 National Guard troops that will be in Washington, D.C. this week for the inauguration. Defense officials are worried that there could be an insider attack or threats from service members involving the securing the inauguration, and the Army Secretary says they're also on the lookout for problems within ranks. And the Missoula Police Department says they're preparing for any civil unrest that could come this week. Missoula Police and the sheriff put out a joint statement saying there's a plan in place to handle any violence. Missoula Police say law enforcement is monitoring social media. So far, they're unaware of any credible threats of violence in Missoula.
But we're still paying attention. And, you know, those things are part of the discussions that we're having with Sheriff McDermott and his staff.
All right, and Welsh says if you do hear of any credible threats, you can contact the Missoula Police Department. As the presidency changes hands this week, so will several policies that affect everyday life. President-elect Joe Biden says his top priority for change is COVID-19. He plans to enforce mask wearing and issue more vaccines, pass more economic relief. You could also see changes when it comes to the environment as Biden wants to restore the rollback of any climate initiatives. Biden also wants to expand on the Affordable Care Act. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris will step down from her Senate seat today. This comes just days before she takes the role of vice president. Her California Senate seat will be taken by Democrat Alex Padilla, and he is currently California's Secretary of State and will become the first Latino senator from California. And we are sending it over to Miller Robson. There he is. He's still at home this week, which that's okay because some messages of encouragement in the background I see. I like that.
There you go. Hold on tight to your dreams, especially since it is MLK Day. Andrea, hope you're doing well. Hope everybody else is doing well as well. Hope you had a great weekend. Now it's Monday. Hopefully Monday treating you good. Let's jump right in and take a look at the Doppler radar. You can see we have rain and snow all around the state. Great Falls seeing some snow. A little bit of a mix down in Bozeman. Billings, a rain snow mix. A nice bit of moisture socked right between Glasgow and Miles City. And we do have some snow, especially in the higher elevations of northern Wyoming. We're going to be taking a look at some watches and some warnings in here in just a bit. So take a look at temperatures right now, mainly in the 20s and 30s. We're going to see those temperatures stay above average over the course of the next few days. But there is a cool down coming this weekend. How could that affect us weather-wise? I'll let you know coming up. Andrea.
Can't wait, Miller. Thank you. We'll check in with you in a little bit. All right, Montana could be in line for another seat in the U.S. House of Representatives. The state had 2 congressional districts until 1993. That's when a struggling economy forced people to move out. Well, in the early 2020 census numbers that are coming in, pointing toward Montana qualifying for that second seat. And if Montana did send another representative to Washington, each person would represent about 500,000 people.
I'm hoping that we'll get one. Montana could use a second representative. You know, the economies of the east and western portions of the state are significantly different. Each region could use a congressman to concentrate on their constituents' needs in those respective areas.
So if Montana gains a second congressional district, the election to decide who gets to occupy that seat would occur in November of 2022. A Billings church is working to rebuild after strong winds literally blew the roof off. But thanks to some quick community work, the congregation was able to hold an in-person service over the weekend. Crews at Freedom Church and members used a crane to move that roof back to its original place. Then there was a massive cleanup. Pastor Gail Craig says part of the structure was built with a flat pitched roof, which caused an issue when those winds picked up just last week. Wow. Overseas, Britain is tightening its borders to control a potential new strain of COVID-19. Passengers must now have a recent negative coronavirus test and transfer immediately into isolation. The isolation period lasts for about 10 days unless a passenger tests negative after 5 days. Britain banned arrivals from South America, Portugal, and some other countries over fears about a new strain of the virus detected in Brazil. The COVID-19 virus is changing and sprouting into new possible variants, and that has researchers at the University of Montana trying to get ahead of any potential future pandemics. So they're trying to figure out if there's a possible universal one-time vaccine. The research could change the way viruses are handled in the future.
It has been a challenge, and this won't be the last, SARS type or COVID type, coronavirus type infection that we see. The next one might be 20 years from now, it might be 5 years from now. We don't know. The same, just like with influenza. When's the next influenza pandemic going to hit? We can't predict that, but we can do a better job as scientists to be prepared for it.
Sounds like they're on it at UN. The research is being done in that brand new set of laboratories that's located in the Skaggs building on the University of Montana campus. We do have more news ahead on this new news, including this, how one Flathead Valley family is trying to get people fresh produce, even through this struggling economy. We're going to show you how. But first, we're going to go back to Miller because he's got a look at that statewide weather forecast.